So tell me, why do you do what you do? It's a simple question. On the other hand, it implies so much more when someone asks you that question. Today, I was listening to Seth Godin and the interviewer. I forget his name. It happens, and they were talking about the fact that why do you do what you do, and that made me realize that I love sharing ideas with you because there are three things that I like to do. One is learning, the other one is teaching, and the other one is, as much as I can, finding ways to lead better, lead my life, lead others to make the world a better place. So let's see. If I don't have those three goals that is at the forefront of what I do, what would I do? That's what happens when people just they do their days, they in, they out, don't try new things, go with the motion, get caught in a rat race. And at the end of the day, you say, oh, one day's done. Oh, another day's over. Oh, another day is over. But it's very important to figure out, okay, what did I learn today and what can I do to share it with others? Because if you don't do that, then who are we? We're stuck, we're one individual within the society. And what kind of contribution can we make? And that's why I have this video for us today. So there's three things that I love to do and I like to share with others. The first one is about learning. I love learning because I always feel, and I tell that to friends sometimes, oh, I learned something new today. Learning something new is one reason that I still have the drive to keep going day in, day out with everything I do. Because knowing that you can learn one thing during that day is enough to drive you to do more and be better. Now, you're going to say, what do you mean by learning something new? Well, if you are with different people, you're part of a team, you're part of a classroom, you're in your family, did you learn something from people around you? Did you learn something about yourself because you had a good conversation with someone? Did you learn a piece of information that allows you to contribute more to your surrounding? Did you read a book and you got caught up in a story and it made you feel nice? Because it's important to acknowledge those moments where you're learning that what uh, makes you feel better. Because keep in mind that it's important to acknowledge that when we learn, few things happen. Either you say, okay, I appreciate the learning, and we move forward. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm not quite sure about what I've just learned, but let's see if I can assess it with what I believe in and see if I can become a better person after that. Or sometimes you might feel, oh, I don't like what I just learned today. And here you have a few options. You have the options to set it aside and not think about it, or you have the opportunity to say, okay, there's something I don't quite understand here, or there's something new and it shakes me in some ways. Let's see what else I can learn so I can get to know more about myself. And at the same time, you can help others around you. If you're part of a team, you're in sales, you hear about a client that has questions or is questioning what you do, well, this is an opportunity to improve your product. If you're in a classroom and someone is not quite interested in what you have to share, well, it's for you to realize that either the information is not for that person, or maybe you need some new ideas to share ideas. Because when you're part of a group, the most important thing is to realize that everybody involved have their own ideas, own perspective, and at the end, there's a way to look into, is there a consensus to look into, and we can work together. That is, I think, part of what a community is, and that's what I appreciate with my class every day. The second thing I love to do is teaching. Now, the reason why I love to teach is I like the idea that someone can learn something new and be able to say, okay, oh, I did not know about that. And you can see in their eyes that they found something amazing. Sometimes in science, we call it, no, let's see. I worked in a museum, a science museum a few years back in Sudbury. It's called Science North. And there's one mascot there, and it's called AHA. Because when you do something and you do it over and over again until you figure it out, then you have that ha moment that says, okay, I get it. I know what is involved here. I grew as a person so that As a scientist, you can become better at explaining something, better at understanding, better at guiding others to be better, and at the same time, improve what we are doing. This is what scientists are doing and engineers as well. If we just accept what is all the time, where would be the evolution of our society? So that's why I love teaching. Now, teaching is not just about sharing information, it's also about look, guiding others to understand that learning is possible, and then from there, guiding them to be curious enough to find the information for themselves so that they can let's say they can use the new information for themselves in their perspective, in the context. And I think that's what it's amazing here. Now, if you go back 50 years in a school, people would say, well, the teacher was the guardian of the knowledge, and the students were just to absorb what the teacher was sharing. Nowadays, in 2023, what happens is people are learning from the internet. They're learning from each other, from social media, from teachers, from parents, from friends. There's so many different ways to learn that a teacher is no longer the gatekeeper for the knowledge. A teacher is more like a guide to help people to ask the right question when they're curious enough to figure out a situation. And that is quite amazing. It's like reading a book. If you are reading a book, let's say a novel, what happens is everybody interprets the novel, the feelings going on in the characters, the situation in different ways, because they're using the words in a story and interpret the story through their own eyes and through their own experience. And that's why everybody's experience of a novel is different. And that's why a discussion is so amazing. If you read a nonfiction book on leadership, for example, or team building, it's the same thing. Everybody reading an information about team building looks at it through their own eyes, through their experiences, either positive or negative, or even not wanting to get involved. And you may know if you're part of a team, it's hard to get everybody engaged. And the reason for that is that everybody have their own perspective on learning. The teacher here needs to say, okay, let's see what you can do to be curious enough to take the information and then assess it through your own perspective. And then you make it your own. And from there, discussion can happen. And then you can build a stronger team and the chemistry in the team to move forward. I think that's quite important. And that brings me to the third thing I like to do is to discuss about leadership and help people be leaders in their own lives in what they do. And the reason for that is that as a teacher, I cannot be there forever for them. So I need to help them realize that there are ways to be curious and experiment to figure out what is their own way. So that when they go to the next year or they graduate or they get to do their job, the same thing happens. They stay curious, ask the good question, and see if they can make things better. It works for engineering, it works for science, chemistry, it works for medicine, even in arts, and also in what you could say in what was it the other day? I was talking about comedians. If you look at comedians nowadays, their discussions and what they share is quite different than what happened in 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. And the reason for that is that the world changes, ideas changes, perspective changes. But anyhow, it's interesting to see we always aim to make things better. So on this, let's see what we can do at this time is to review. So in life, every day, I try to aim at those three things. I do a little learning, a little teaching, and a little leading. And that can be in your family, as part of your team, at work, in your own life, in your own ideas. The idea here is keeping learning. Keeping on learning all the time allows you to stay curious and ask good questions. The teaching part is once you can teach it, then it means that you have a good grasp on the information, enough for you to feel confident to share it with others. And that is just sharing the information for them to take. And then they made it their own. But you know as well as me that we can read all the books of the world, on leadership, on sales, on science, on how to draw something. But reading everything doesn't beat the idea of doing it. And that's the whole idea of leading, which is the third part here. Because once you start leading, it's no longer about you. It's about you showing the example to others for what is possible. And if needed, to tell them the one sentence, the one idea, to ask the right question so that everybody else around you can make it their own and move forward. Because it takes way too much energy to support the everybody as a society. On the other hand, if you can help everybody to be their own leaders, then you can all march forward together. So, on this, I would love to see in the comments below, if you have a chance, I would love to know what you learned today, what were you able to teach someone today, and as a leader, what did you do to make the world a better place? On this, I wish you a wonderful day, and I'm going to see you in the next video.